My drummer friend Gerald asked me to front a three-piece band or a power trio at an after-hours club. He was playing on the alley every Friday and Saturday night, but could break down his drum kit and make it over to the late hour gig in time for our 3 a.m. start. That's right, 3 a.m. Printer's Alley was a legendary strip in downtown Nashville where some nightclubs operated and catered to booze drinking tourists and business people. Bands would play there into the night, but an after hours club was illegal as it would operate past the city ordinance time of 2 o'clock a.m. I accepted Gerald's offer to sing and play lead guitar from 3 till 6 a.m. for $30 a night. Usually I was coming from a 4-hour gig of my own that had been an 8 to 12 or 9 to 1 affair. I would do this endeavor for several months until it was shut down by authorities. If you want to be a strong player or singer, it's best to do it as much as possible. Those who have all the skills or chops, they had this kind of work ethic and history. To be on stage with other musicians, interacting with audiences and PA equipment has always been a thrill for me. But the experience I got from thousands of engagements, that's what made me into the musician I am now. This 3 till 6 a.m. engagement is a great example of the journey of which I've been. The thing is that the bassist was always a different player. Gerald was always the drummer. I was always the guitarist, singer. But the third player rotated. Whoever played the weekend would have the responsibility of making sure he was back for the following weekend or getting a replacement, which we call a sub. The sub situation is very Nashville. You are accustomed to it if you spent any time playing around there. In this case, the bassist was a different player every single weekend. Usually I met that bassist and shook his hand on the Friday, actually Saturday morning, at 2:30 a.m. as we set up to play. When your audience consists of an assembly of wait staff and bartenders who are now off work, drug dealers, cokeheads, extreme night owls, drunkards, and dregs of society, it makes for a certain kind of music experience. We were in the corner, amps and drums and PA with no actual stage platform. The anything goes as far as song selection allowed me to reach deep into some material I typically did not play with bands. Real obscure album tracks of artists I liked could be tossed out there with no chance of anyone taking issue. The bandmates were along for the ride into whatever song I jumped. The audience were accepting in a peculiar sense. We were A, not in existence to most patrons. B, background music in the most intense way ever. C, expected to be completely offbeat under the circumstances. As for C, I mean, who would be playing this 3 till 6 a.m. after hours gig anyway? Well, the answer to that is me. Oh, Yoko. Oh, Yoko. Oh, Yoko. I'd love to turn you on. I distinctly remember singing that John Lennon song on a given night. The bassist who I had just met was new to Nashville. I do not remember his name, having played one weekend with him. I think he was from northern Ohio that I remember. Nashville was likely a little bit of culture shock for him, especially in late 1980s Nashville. But I'm sure he did not believe he would find himself doing that song at that gig in that music town. A fellow would come in every night and ask to sit in and sing one song. It was always the same song. He insisted on it being Jimi Hendrix's Little Wing. When it came to the guitar solo, which I played very true to Hendrix solo, the guest singer would scream a higher harmony to my guitar notes. I was already loudly bending strings and digging into the guitar part, but his screeching voice into the microphone was ear-piercing. Nobody cared but him and our band personnel. But it was so entertaining for me that I looked forward to seeing him come in the door. It always got me through the engagement, the Little Wing experience. I believe it happened around 4:30 a.m. every time. You know what? He hit the notes. He flat out nailed it every time. And I got $30 to be a part of that instant in the universe. One time I agreed to play in a Saturday softball tournament with the understanding that I had a music job to play late at night. After rolling into the house at 7 o'clock a.m. from the after hours thing, I had just enough time to shower off, suit up, and make the early morning first game. With no sleep and my ears still ringing from Gerald's cymbals near my ear and my loud guitar amp right behind me, I went onto the playing field. It was a double elimination tourney. I assumed we would fall out of the tournament well before my 3 a.m. music gig, which was actually Sunday morning. My plan was to get some sleep in the afternoon, evening hours, but a steady rain fell all day. The field was muddy and the event could not be rescheduled, so the intent was to finish, no matter how late into Saturday night. As it turns out, we kept winning games. By 6 or 7 p.m., I knew my sleep might be a few hours only. I started warning my teammates that I had to leave eventually. But we had 10 players, the minimum required. The other 9 were giving me a very hard time about not abandoning them and causing a forfeit. The games went on and on. The rain fell on us nonstop. I was a bit cold, dirty, without sleep, very exhausted. And I had to be on stage at 3 o'clock a.m. to knock out 3 hours of music. At about 12:45 or 1 a.m. with no losses and playing a team with 1 loss, I found myself in the field watching the opponent having a 15-run inning. We were down 25 runs and would have to play them once more for the championship game. I chose to run off the field, saying openly, "I'm sorry, I have to leave." Once I left the gate around the field, the umpire yelled, "Ball game!" The 9 players had to forfeit and would have to forfeit the final unplayed contest too. They were mad at me. But ball game was music to my ears. Now I would drive home, shower, grab my guitar, and go play rock and blues songs. I do not know how I got through that morning. I remember someone opening a door by my side. Sunlight was shining through at 6 a.m. and I was belting out the rock song, "Keep Your Hands to Yourself." Later, I would get to know Dan Baird of the Georgia Satellites, and I always meant to tell him about that. I got home and made it into bed at 8 o'clock a.m. I'd been up since Friday, and it was now Sunday. I had played 2 full bar band gigs and a slew of softball games, all in the rain, since last sleeping. I figured all of that fell into a 41-hour window. I slept 14 hours straight. I got a call one day to go to the club and recover all the PA gear because the cops had closed the joint. It was not a big PA system, but it was not anything I wished to replace. It was close to being impounded, but I was given time to drive there and load it all into the vehicle. I was relieved to not lose the gear. and I was somewhat happy to see that job disappear. $30 each Friday and Saturday night in the dead of night was getting a bit old to me. I usually played other full gigs on those nights before the after-hours spots. The earlier engagements were better paying and a little more dignified, but I do have lots of memories from that 3 to 4 month experience. Oh Yoko, Little Wing, enough said. Ball game!